Commander Jake Harrison stood at the main window of the UEC Defiance and watched space itself tear apart. The dark void between stars suddenly filled with massive shapes that blocked out distant suns. 3,000 alien ships appeared from nowhere, their black holes stretching for miles in every direction. Each vessel was bigger than anything humans had ever built, and they all pointed toward Earth. Jake had been expecting this day for 20 years. Every military officer in the solar system knew it would come eventually. Earth had been sending radio signals into space for over a century, and someone was bound to notice. The question was never if aliens would find humanity, but what they would want when they arrived. The bridge crew worked in silence behind Jake. Nobody spoke because there was nothing left to say. The scanners showed the enemy fleet in perfect detail. The computers counted each ship and measured their weapons. The numbers were bad, worse than anyone had imagined. 3,000 alien warships against 400 human vessels. The odds were impossible. Admiral Lisa Carter received the first alien message at Earth Defense Command deep under the mountains of Colorado. The transmission came in perfect English, which meant the aliens had been watching humanity for a long time. They knew human languages, human customs, and human weaknesses. The message was simple and direct. The aliens called themselves the Catherian Dominion. They had conquered 17 star systems and destroyed any species that refused to surrender. Earth had 72 hours to give up completely, or every human being would die. There would be no negotiation, no middle ground, and no mercy for those who resisted. Admiral Carter read the message 3 times before calling President William Hayes. The president was in the White House Situation Room within minutes, surrounded by his top military advisors. General Paul Anderson spread out star charts on the conference table and pointed to red dots that marked Catherian conquests. Each red dot had once been home to billions of living beings. The Catherians had studied every species they encountered and found them all wanting. Some races had tried to fight and been wiped out in days. Others had surrendered immediately and been enslaved. None had ever successfully resisted the Dominion's advance across the galaxy. General Anderson explained what Earth's satellites had detected about the alien fleet. The Catherian ships used energy weapons that could melt through steel like butter. Their shields could stop any missile or laser beam humans possessed. A single alien destroyer could probably defeat Earth's entire space navy in direct combat. President Hayes listened to the military briefing and asked the question everyone was thinking. Was there any way Earth could win this fight? The general looked at his charts and shook his head. In a fair battle, humanity would lose in less than 6 hours. The only question was whether Earth should surrender now or let billions of people die for nothing. But Dr. Helen Martinez had been quiet during the entire meeting. She worked for a project so secret that even the president barely knew it existed. The Phoenix Project had been building something in the shadows for 40 years. Every mining operation in the asteroid belt, every research station around Jupiter, every satellite in Earth orbit was part of a plan nobody talked about. Dr. Martinez finally spoke up when the president asked if there were any other options. She told him about the Phoenix Network, a defense system that had been hidden throughout the solar system since the early days of space exploration. Humanity had learned from every war in their history that the side with better preparation usually won, no matter how bad the odds looked. The Phoenix Project had started after the first. Radio telescopes detected signs of alien civilizations. Scientists and military planners realized that contact with aliens might not be peaceful. They began designing weapons and defenses that could protect Earth from threats no human had ever imagined. Every asteroid mining ship carried hidden weapons along with their drilling equipment. Every research station had secret weapon systems built into their laboratories. Every communications satellite could become a missile if needed. The entire solar system had been turned into a fortress over the course of decades. President Hayes stared at Dr. Martinez and asked why nobody had told him about this before. She explained that the Phoenix network only worked if enemies didn't know it existed. The moment aliens discovered humanity's hidden defenses, the plan would fail. Only a few dozen people in the entire world knew the truth about what Earth had been building. The alien ultimatum gave Earth 72 hours to decide. The Catherian fleet held position at the edge of the solar system and waited for humanity's answer. Their commander was confident that Earth would surrender like every other species had done. Humans appeared primitive and divided, with no unified government or advanced weapons. But the Catherians had made their first mistake by giving Earth time to think. Captain Ryan Brooks prepared to send humanity's response from the communications center on Luna. The message would be broadcast on every frequency the aliens could receive, translated into their language, and delivered with the calm dignity that humans showed in their darkest moments. Captain Brooks looked at his communications team and read the message that President Hayes had approved. Earth thanked the Catherian Dominion for their generous offer of slavery, but respectfully declined. Humanity preferred to remain free, even if freedom meant fighting impossible odds against a superior enemy. The human response also included a warning that the aliens probably found amusing. Earth advised the Catherian fleet to leave the solar system immediately and find easier prey elsewhere. Any attempt to attack human territory would be met with the full force of Earth's defenses. The message ended with a simple statement that would echo across the galaxy for generations to come. Humanity had never surrendered to any enemy in their long history of warfare. They had fought against overwhelming odds before, and somehow found ways to win. Earth was their home, and they would defend it with everything they possessed. The Catherian Dominion could kill every human being in the solar system, but they would never make them kneel. The transmission ended, and Captain Brooks sent it toward the alien fleet. 3,000 enemy ships received humanity's defiant answer and prepared for war. The Catherians had expected fear and begging for mercy. Instead, they got a declaration that Earth would fight to the last ship and the last soldier. Admiral Carter watched the tactical displays as the alien fleet began moving toward the inner solar system. The Catherians advanced slowly and carefully, scanning for human defenses and weapon systems. They found exactly what they expected to find: 400 small ships that posed no real threat to their massive armada. What the aliens didn't detect were the thousands of hidden weapons scattered throughout space, waiting for the right moment to reveal themselves. The Phoenix network remained invisible, disguised as harmless mining equipment and research stations. Earth's real defenses stayed hidden while the enemy prepared to destroy what appeared to be humanity's entire military force. The 72-hour deadline passed, and the Catherian Dominion moved to attack position. Earth had given them one final warning to leave peacefully. The aliens had chosen to ignore it, and now they would learn why that decision was the worst mistake in their long history of conquest. Fleet Commander Zefkar stood in the command center of his flagship and laughed at humanity's response. In 200 years of military service, he had conquered more star systems than any other Catherian officer. He had destroyed entire civilizations and enslaved billions of creatures across the galaxy. Never once had an inferior species dared to refuse the Dominion's generous offer of servitude. The human message played again on the main screen, and Zethkar shook his head in amazement. These primitive creatures actually believed they could fight the mighty Catherian fleet. Their response showed either incredible courage or complete stupidity. Based on what his intelligence officers had learned about humans, Zethkar suspected it was stupidity. The Dominion had been studying Earth for 50 years before deciding to add it to their empire. Catherian spy ships had watched human wars from a safe distance and recorded everything they saw. Humans fought with chemical explosives and metal projectiles, while the Dominion possessed weapons that could crack planets in half. The technology gap was so enormous that this battle would barely qualify as target practice. Zethkar called his senior officers to the briefing room and displayed holographic images of human military equipment. Earth's most advanced warships still used primitive fusion reactors for power. Their weapons fired solid chunks of metal instead of energy beams. Their defensive systems relied on thick armor plating rather than deflector shields that could stop anything. The intelligence reports showed that humans were also hopelessly divided among themselves. Earth had dozens of separate nations that spent most of their time fighting each other. Even their space forces belonged to different countries and rarely worked together effectively. The Cytherians would be facing a collection of small, weak fleets instead of one unified defense force. Colonel Steve Murphy watched the alien advance from his station on Luna's defense platform. The Cytherian ships moved in perfect formation, maintaining precise distances and synchronized speeds. Their confidence was obvious in every aspect of their approach. These aliens had done this many times before and expected Earth to fall just as easily as their previous conquests. The enemy fleet spread out as it entered the asteroid belt, with smaller ships scouting ahead for hidden defenses or surprise attacks. Murphy could see them scanning every piece of rock and metal they encountered. The aliens were being careful, but not because they feared human weapons. They simply wanted to make sure no Earth forces escaped the coming slaughter. Dr. Martinez monitored the Cytherian advance from her control room deep beneath the Colorado Mountains. The Phoenix network detected every enemy ship as it passed through the outer solar system. Hidden sensors disguised as space debris tracked alien movements and analyzed their weapon systems. Everything the invaders did was recorded and studied by Earth's secret defense network. The Cytherians had no idea they were being watched so closely. Their own sensors showed exactly what they expected to see in the asteroid belt. Mining ships continued their work of breaking apart rocks and extracting valuable metals. Research stations maintained their scientific observations of deep space phenomena. Communication satellites kept broadcasting television signals and internet data toward Earth. None of the alien scanners detected the weapons hidden inside those innocent-looking installations. The Phoenix Project had spent 40 years perfecting the art of camouflage. Every gun barrel was disguised as a mining drill. Every missile launcher looked like a cargo container. Every targeting system appeared to be a simple radio. Telescope pointed at distant stars. The Cytherian fleet commander sent another message to Earth as his ships approached the inner solar system. Zethkar appeared on screens around the world, his reptilian features showing what he probably thought was a friendly expression. He offered humanity one final chance to surrender before the destruction began. The alien commander explained that resistance was not only futile, but also cruel to the human population. Earth's military forces would be destroyed in minutes, but the planetary bombardment might take hours. Billions of innocent people would suffer needlessly if their leaders continued this foolish defiance. The wise choice was immediate surrender, followed by peaceful integration into the Dominion. Lieutenant Amy Foster recorded the transmission from her station aboard the U's Vigilant. She had studied military history at the Space Academy and recognized the psychological warfare tactics Zethkar was using. The alien commander wanted humans to feel hopeless and abandoned by their own government. Fear and despair were weapons, just as deadly as plasma cannons in the right circumstances. But Foster noticed something interesting about the Cytherian message. Zethkar spoke like a conqueror who had never faced serious resistance. His tone was condescending rather than respectful. He treated Earth like a wayward child that needed to be punished for misbehaving. The alien commander clearly believed his own propaganda. about human weakness and primitive technology. This attitude reminded Foster of historical military disasters she had studied. Overconfident armies throughout human history had been defeated by enemies they underestimated. The British Empire lost battles to American colonists who were supposed to be helpless farmers. German forces were stopped by Russian soldiers who were considered racially inferior. Japanese admirals attacked Pearl Harbor without expecting any meaningful retaliation from American forces. Every one of those defeats had started with the same mistake the Catherians were making now. The stronger side assumed that superior numbers and technology guaranteed victory. They failed to consider that desperate people fighting for their homes might find ways to overcome seemingly impossible odds. Arrogance had destroyed more armies than any weapon ever invented. President Hayes sent Earth's final response through Captain Brooks on Luna. The message was even shorter than humanity's first refusal. Earth declined the Dominion's offer of slavery and advised the alien fleet to leave immediately. Any attack on human territory would be considered an act of war and answered with appropriate force. The transmission included technical specifications for Earth's nuclear weapons, just to make sure the aliens understood what they were facing. The Catherians probably found these primitive fusion bombs amusing compared to their own planet-killing superweapons. They had no way of knowing that humanity had built something far more dangerous than nuclear missiles. Sethkar received the human response and ordered his fleet to attack positions. The time for negotiation had ended, and the destruction of Earth could finally begin. His ships powered up their main weapons and prepared to sweep aside the pathetic human defense forces. The Catherian commander expected this battle to be over within 6 hours. The alien fleet moved past Jupiter and headed toward the inner planets, where most human ships were waiting. Eskar watched his tactical displays and counted the enemy vessels his sensors detected. 400 small warships against 3,000 Dominion battleships. The humans had chosen death over slavery, and the Catherians were happy to grant their wish. What the aliens didn't realize was that they had just entered the most heavily defended region of space in galactic history. The asteroid belt around them contained enough hidden firepower to destroy a dozen invasion fleets. Every rock, every mining station, every piece of seemingly harmless debris was part of Earth's secret weapon system. The Phoenix network waited in silence as the Catherian Dominion approached their final destination. Dr. Martinez watched her control screens and prepared to show these arrogant aliens why they should have listened to humanity's warning. Earth had tried diplomacy and been ignored. Now it was time for the galaxy to learn what happened when humans were forced to fight for their survival. The first shots of the war came at exactly 14:30 GMT, when Catherian advance ships opened fire on Luna's outer defense platforms. Captain Danny Coleman watched from the bridge of the U.E.'s Thunder as bright plasma beams cut through the darkness of space. The alien weapons hit their targets with devastating accuracy, turning human installations into clouds of glowing metal and vapor. Coleman had known this moment would come since he graduated from the Space Academy 15 years ago. Every human officer understood that Earth's visible defenses were meant to be sacrificed. The outer platforms and patrol ships were bait, designed to make the aliens confident while the real weapons stayed hidden. Still, watching good people die was never easy, even when their deaths served a greater purpose. The Catherian advance guard consisted of 50 fast attack ships that moved ahead of the main fleet. Their job was to clear away Earth's defensive positions and scan for hidden weapons or surprise attacks. The alien ships worked with mechanical precision, destroying every human installation they encountered, while their main fleet watched from a safe distance. Lieutenant Karen Davis commanded one of the doomed defense platforms near Mars. She knew her station would be destroyed within minutes, but her crew kept fighting anyway. Their missiles bounced harmlessly off Cytherian energy shields while enemy plasma cannons charged up for the killing shot. Davis used her final transmission to wish her family goodbye and tell them she was proud to serve. Earth. The platform exploded in a brilliant flash that could be seen from millions of miles away. Davis and her 40-person crew died instantly when the alien beam punched through their reactor core. The Cytherians barely slowed down as they moved toward their next target. Human lives meant nothing to creatures who had conquered 17 star systems. Commander Zethkar watched the battle's opening phase from his command center and nodded with satisfaction. Everything was proceeding exactly as his tactical computers had predicted. Earth's outer defenses were falling on schedule, and human resistance was proving even weaker than expected. The aliens would reach Earth itself within 12 hours and finish this pathetic attempt at defiance. The main Cytherian fleet began moving toward the inner solar system once their scouts had cleared the way. 3,000 warships advanced in perfect formation, their weapons powered up and ready to destroy anything that challenged them. The aliens had used this same strategy to conquer dozens of worlds, and it had never failed them before. But as the enemy fleet passed through the asteroid belt, something strange began to happen. The space rocks around them started to move in ways that defied the laws of physics. Asteroids that should have been drifting slowly through empty space suddenly changed direction and accelerated toward the alien ships. What looked like natural celestial bodies were revealing themselves to be something far more dangerous. Dr. Martinez sat in her control room 3 miles beneath the mountains of Colorado and activated the Phoenix Protocol. Her fingers moved across holographic displays that controlled weapon systems scattered throughout the entire solar system. 40 years of secret construction were about to reveal themselves in the most spectacular military surprise in human history. The first asteroid to reveal its true nature was a chunk of rock the size of a city block that had been floating near Jupiter for decades. Cytherian sensors had scanned it dozens of times and found nothing but ordinary stone and metal ore. They never detected the massive engines hidden inside its core or the nuclear warheads concealed within its outer shell. Asteroids suddenly sprouted rocket thrusters and accelerated toward the alien fleet at impossible speed. Zethkar stared at his tactical display in confusion as the harmless space rock transformed into a guided missile bigger than his flagship. The Cytherian commander ordered his ships to destroy the incoming threat, but their weapons barely scratched its reinforced surface. The weaponized asteroid struck a Dominion battleship with the force of a small nuclear bomb. The alien vessel's energy shields collapsed instantly under the kinetic impact, and its hull cracked open like an egg. Atmosphere and crew members spilled into space as the mighty warship broke apart and died. It was the first Cytherian ship lost in over 50 years of conquest. Commander Jake Harrison coordinated the counterattack from his position near Jupiter's largest moon. The Phoenix network wasn't just hidden weapons scattered randomly through space. It was a complete defense system that had been designed and built by the finest military minds in human history. Every component worked together like parts of a giant machine designed for one purpose: destroying anyone who threatened Earth. Asteroids were only the beginning of humanity's surprise. Space stations that had appeared to be simple research facilities suddenly opened their outer hulls to reveal massive gun batteries. Communications satellites that had been broadcasting television signals for decades turned out to be sophisticated missile launchers. Even the solar power collectors that orbited the sun contained hidden weapon systems. Captain Sarah Lewis commanded the UES Retribution as it emerged from behind one of Jupiter's moons. Her ship had been hiding in the planet's shadow while the Phoenix network prepared to spring its trap. Now she led a squadron of human vessels in a coordinated attack against the confused alien formation. For the first time in the battle, Earth forces had the advantage of surprise. The Cytherian fleet found itself under attack from every direction at once. Weapons fire came from asteroids, space stations, satellites, and ships they hadn't even known existed. The aliens' perfect formation dissolved into chaos as commanders tried to respond to threats they couldn't understand. Their sensors showed enemy contacts appearing everywhere, as if the entire solar system had suddenly come alive and turned hostile. Zethkar screamed orders at his subordinates as his flagship shook under human weapons fire. The tactical displays showed red warning, symbols appearing faster than his crew could count them. Hidden gun platforms were revealing themselves throughout the asteroid belt, turning what should have been empty space into a deadly crossfire zone. The alien commander realized with growing horror that he had led his fleet into the most sophisticated military trap in galactic history. The humans hadn't just built a few hidden weapons. They had turned their entire star system into a fortress designed specifically to destroy invasion fleets. Every piece of space infrastructure served a dual purpose, and the Cytherians had walked straight into the killing zone. A massive space station near Jupiter's orbit opened fire with weapons that dwarfed anything on the alien ships. The station's main gun, powered by the planet's own magnetic field, fired a beam of pure energy that cut straight through a Cytherian dreadnought. The alien ship simply ceased to exist, vaporized so completely that not even debris remained. Other hidden weapons joined the attack as the Phoenix network revealed its full power. Railguns built into hollowed asteroids fired projectiles at incredible velocity. Missile batteries disguised as mining equipment launched swarms of nuclear warheads. Laser arrays that had pretended to be scientific instruments carved alien ships into pieces with surgical precision. The Dominion fleet that had seemed so invincible just hours before was now fighting for survival against an enemy they had completely underestimated. Human ingenuity and decades of careful preparation were proving more powerful than superior alien technology and overwhelming numbers. Earth had given the Cytherians one final warning, and they were learning the terrible cost of ignoring it. The Cytherian fleet was dying, and Fleet Commander Zethkar could do nothing to save it. His tactical screens showed hundreds of red symbols where proud Dominion warships had been destroyed by weapons that shouldn't exist. The humans had somehow turned their entire solar system into a fortress, and his mighty Armada was trapped inside a killing field with no escape. Admiral Lisa Carter watched the battle unfold from Earth Defense Command while coordinating the Phoenix Network's devastating assault. Every screen in her control room showed Cytherian ships exploding as humanity's hidden weapons revealed their true power. The asteroids that had seemed like harmless space rocks were tearing through alien formations like bullets through paper. Weaponized asteroids moved with impossible precision, guided by targeting systems that had been concealed inside them for decades. Each massive rock became a kinetic missile that struck with the force of nuclear bombs. Cytherian energy shields that could stop plasma beams and particle weapons proved useless against simple mass moving at incredible velocity. Lieutenant Colonel Mike Turner directed the asteroid bombardment from his hidden command post on Ceres. The dwarf planet had been hollowed out over 30 years to create the largest weapons platform in the solar system. Massive rail guns built into the planetoid's core could accelerate chunks of rock to significant fractions of light speed before hurling them at enemy targets. Turner selected his targets carefully, aiming for the largest alien ships first. The Cytherian command vessels were massive and slow, making them perfect targets for asteroid strikes. Each hit sent shockwaves through the enemy formation as ships that had ruled the galaxy for centuries were reduced to expanding clouds of debris and plasma. The aliens tried to fight back, but their weapons were designed for ship-to-ship combat against similar technology. Cytherian plasma cannons could destroy human vessels easily enough, but they couldn't target the hundreds of hidden weapon platforms scattered throughout the asteroid belt. Every time they destroyed one threat, 3 more revealed themselves from different directions. Captain Rachel Green commanded the Jupiter Defense Platform, the most powerful single weapon system humanity had ever built. The massive station had been disguised as a research facility for 20 years, while engineers worked to tap into the gas giant's enormous magnetic field. Now that power flowed through superconducting coils to create the most devastating energy weapon in the solar system. Green's platform fired its main gun for the second time, and another Cytherian dreadnought simply vanished in a flash of pure energy. The beam was so powerful it could be seen from Earth, cutting across space like a sword made of starlight. The alien ship's atoms were torn apart at the molecular level, leaving nothing behind but a brief glow in the darkness. The psychological effect on the surviving Cytherians was even more devastating than the physical damage. These proud warriors had conquered 17 star systems without ever facing serious resistance. Now they watched their most powerful ships being destroyed by creatures they had considered primitive savages. The humans were using the very laws of physics as weapons. Dr. Martinez monitored the battle from her underground control center and marveled at how perfectly the Phoenix network was performing. 40 years of planning and construction had created a defense system that worked exactly as designed. Every component functioned flawlessly, from the smallest targeting sensor to the largest orbital gun platform. The network demonstrated humanity's greatest strength, their ability to think beyond conventional warfare. While other species developed better weapons, humans had developed better strategy. They understood that winning battles required more than superior firepower. Victory came from preparation, deception, and the willingness to sacrifice everything for a greater cause. Commander Jake Harrison led his expanded fleet in coordinated strikes against the confused alien formations. Human ships that had been outgunned and outnumbered just hours before now had the support of the entire solar system behind them. The Phoenix network had turned Earth's apparent weakness into an overwhelming advantage. Harrison's tactical display showed the true scope of humanity's preparations. Hidden weapons platforms dotted the inner solar system like stars in the night sky. Each installation had been carefully positioned to provide overlapping fields of fire that could destroy anything attempting to approach Earth. The aliens had flown straight into the most sophisticated military trap in galactic history. The Cytherian fleet's rigid command structure became a fatal weakness as the battle turned against them. Individual ship commanders had been trained to follow orders from their superiors rather than adapt to unexpected situations. When their formation collapsed under the human assault, they couldn't reorganize quickly enough to mount an effective counterattack. Fleet Commander Zethkar tried desperately to rally his forces, but communication between alien ships was becoming impossible. Human electronic warfare specialists had been studying Cytherian technology for decades and knew exactly how to disrupt their command networks. The mighty Dominion fleet was breaking apart into hundreds of isolated vessels fighting for survival. The tide of battle had completely reversed in less than 2 hours. The aliens who had expected an easy victory were now trapped in a nightmare of human ingenuity and preparation. Every asteroid, every satellite, every piece of space infrastructure was part of an integrated defense network that had been decades in the making. Captain Brian Martinez piloted his fighter squadron through the chaos of the main battle zone. Human pilots had trained for this moment their entire careers, studying every aspect of Cytherian ship design and tactical doctrine. They knew exactly where the alien vessels were most vulnerable and how to exploit those weaknesses. Martinez's fighters were small and fast compared to the massive alien warships, but they carried weapons specifically designed to penetrate Cytherian defenses. Humanity had learned from studying wreckage of alien ships that had been secretly recovered over the years. Every human weapon system had been optimized to cause maximum damage to Dominion technology. The small human vessels swarmed around isolated Cytherian ships like angry insects attacking much larger predators. Their missiles and energy weapons found gaps in alien armor that the ship designers never expected anyone to discover. One by one, enemy vessels that had survived the asteroid bombardment fell to concentrated fighter attacks. Admiral Carter received reports from across the solar system as the Phoenix Network continued its devastating work. Weapon platforms near Saturn were engaging alien scout ships trying to escape toward the outer system. Defense stations around Mars were mopping up stragglers from the main battle. Even the moon-based installations were firing at maximum range to support the main assault. The battle that was supposed to end with Earth's surrender had become the greatest military disaster in Cytherian history. Their invasion fleet was being systematically destroyed by an enemy they had dismissed as primitive and helpless. The humans had given them one final warning to leave peacefully, and the aliens were learning the terrible cost of their arrogance. Commander Jake Harrison watched another group of alien ships explode under concentrated human fire and realized that Earth had achieved the impossible. They were actually winning a war against a vastly superior enemy through superior planning and preparation. The Phoenix Network was proving that human ingenuity could overcome any technological disadvantage when properly applied. The Cytherian retreat began 6 hours after the first shot was fired, but it was already too late for most of the alien fleet. Fleet Commander Zeth Carr looked at his tactical displays and saw the complete destruction of everything he had built during 2 centuries of conquest. Less than 800 ships remained from his original force of 3,000, and those survivors were scattered across the solar system with no hope of escape. The humans had prepared for this moment too. Captain Ben Rogers commanded the SIA, outer system defense grid that had been waiting silently in the darkness beyond Pluto. These weapon platforms had remained hidden during the main battle, saving their power for the moment when desperate aliens tried to flee back to deep space. Earth's fortress extended far beyond what any enemy could imagine. Rogers activated his defense network as the first Cytherian ships approached the edge of the solar system. Massive gun batteries that had been disguised as ice chunks and space debris suddenly came alive with deadly purpose. The aliens found themselves facing another wall of weapons just when they thought they had reached safety. There would be no escape from humanity's carefully planned trap. President William Hayes addressed the galaxy from the Oval Office as the last phase of the battle began. His speech was broadcast on every known frequency and translated into dozens of alien languages by computers that had been studying galactic communication for decades. The message was simple and would be remembered across the stars for generations to come. Earth had never wanted war with any species, but humanity would defend their home against anyone who threatened it. The solar system was now closed to hostile visitors, and any species that approached with violent intentions would face the same fate as the Cytherian Dominion. Peace was always humanity's first choice, but they were prepared for war if diplomacy failed. The president's words reached alien civilizations throughout the local galactic region. Species that had dismissed Earth as a primitive backwater suddenly realized they had been watching the birth of a new military power. The humans who seemed so divided and weak had just destroyed the most feared conquest fleet in known space. The galaxy would never underestimate humanity again. Fleet Commander Seth Carr made his final transmission as his flagship died around him. The proud warrior who had never known defeat found himself facing complete annihilation at the hands of creatures he had considered barely civilized. His last message was broadcast on all frequencies so that every surviving alien could hear his words. The Cytherian commander acknowledged that the Dominion had made a terrible mistake in attacking Earth. The humans were not the primitive species they appeared to be, but rather the most dangerous military force the galaxy had ever seen. They had turned their entire star system into a weapon and used it with devastating effectiveness against their enemies. Zethkar's final words became a warning that echoed across interstellar space. Any species foolish enough to threaten Earth would face the same fate as his mighty fleet. The humans had given them one last chance to leave peacefully, and the aliens had chosen war instead. Now they were paying the ultimate price for their arrogance and overconfidence. The alien commander's ship exploded in a brilliant flash of light that could be seen from Jupiter. With his death, organized Cytherian resistance came to an end. The few surviving alien vessels surrendered or were destroyed by human forces that showed no mercy to invaders. The Battle of Sol was over, and Earth had achieved total victory against impossible odds. Dr. Helen Martinez began the Phoenix Network shutdown sequence as the last enemy ships were eliminated. The hidden weapons returned to their camouflaged states, ready to defend humanity again if other aliens made the same mistake as the Cytherians. The solar system appeared peaceful once more, but the galaxy now knew the truth about the species that called it home. The network had performed perfectly. During its first real test, 40 years of secret construction and planning had paid off beyond humanity's wildest dreams. Earth had not only survived an invasion by a superior enemy, but had completely destroyed them while suffering minimal losses. The hidden fortress had worked exactly as designed. Admiral Lisa Carter received the first response from galactic civilization within days of the battle's end. The Altarian Republic, humanity's nearest neighbors, requested immediate diplomatic contact through channels they had ignored for decades. Other species that had dismissed Earth's previous attempts at communication suddenly showed intense interest in establishing peaceful relations. The galactic community realized that a new power had emerged from the small, yellow star they had barely noticed before. Earth possessed military technology and strategic thinking that surpassed anything seen in their corner of the galaxy. The humans had demonstrated capabilities that made even the most advanced alien civilizations nervous about their own security. Trade offers and alliance proposals began arriving from dozens of different species. Governments that had considered Earth too primitive for serious diplomatic contact now competed for humanity's attention and friendship. The balance of power in the local galactic region had shifted dramatically in just 6 hours of combat. Commander Jake Harrison stood on his bridge and looked out at a changed universe. The stars were the same, but everything else was different. Humanity had earned their place among the galactic powers not through diplomacy or trade, but by proving they could destroy anyone who threatened their freedom. Respect born from fear was still respect. The Battle of Sol became the most studied military engagement in galactic history. Alien strategists spent years analyzing how the humans had achieved such a complete victory against superior numbers and technology. The answer was always the same: preparation, deception, and a willingness to sacrifice everything for their home world. Earth's warning to the Cytherian Dominion had been ignored, and the consequences echoed across the galaxy. No species would ever again dismiss humanity as primitive or helpless. The quiet planet orbiting an unremarkable star had revealed itself as the most heavily fortified world in known space, defended by beings who would never surrender their freedom. Military academies throughout the galaxy began teaching courses on human warfare and the Phoenix Network's revolutionary design. The idea of turning an entire star system into a fortress inspired other species to reconsider their own defensive strategies. Earth had changed the rules of interstellar warfare forever. The story spread from world to world about the alien fleet that had demanded humanity's surrender and received their complete destruction instead. Children across the galaxy heard tales of the species that had hidden weapons in asteroids and turned harmless space stations into deadly gun platforms. Earth became a legend that parents used to teach their young about the dangers of underestimating any enemy. Years passed, and humanity took their place as a respected member of galactic civilization. Trade routes connected Earth to distant worlds, and human explorers ventured into deep space under the protection of their fearsome reputation. The Phoenix Network remained hidden but ready, a constant reminder to the galaxy that Earth would never again face invasion alone. The final lesson of the Battle of Sol was carved into monuments on 100 worlds. Never ignore a species fighting for their home, no matter how weak they appear. Earth had given the Catherian Dominion one final warning, and when it was dismissed, humanity had shown the galaxy exactly what happened to those who threatened their world.